Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 43. Today is Tuesday, May 20th, and it's pretty chill out today. I decided to record outside today because it's pretty nice out. It might be slightly inconvenient, but I have quite a bit to show you guys this week, which is exciting. So I suppose that we should get to it then. Let's see. I will show you first the thing I'm not working on anymore. So, finally this week I was able to get at least 150 grams knit on the Strand Wanderer, and currently I just have this on my little, I have my little end keepers on my interchangeable set on this one, and a rather short needle holding it on this end. There we go. So, so I finally got my yardage requirement, and then I ended up doing the garter row. So all I need to do on this is the bind off, and this will get me a good ways of the way for Stash Dash. So, or that's basically why it's not finished this week. Otherwise, it would have been totally gone. So, this is what we have. This is the Strand Wanderer. It is out of the Am Colton Polar Lace. This is Woolmeister lace yarn. And here is the massive diffuse ball of yarn. When I weighed it to verify that I'd gone far enough, this ball is still 190 grams. There is so much of this left over. I don't even... There's plenty to make something else. Let's just put it that way. Plenty. So this is where I am. It is quite gorgeous and lovely, and it's going to be a really great scarf. So wear it on the point. Could actually probably wrap it around several times. So I think that it'll be quite fetching and quite pretty when it's done. I am planning on blocking it, and I'll probably block it so that it's longer. Well, no. I want to block it so it's wider. The length is huge. The length is longer than what I would normally knit a scarf to. So I think I'm going to make it a bit deeper and then call it good. And I'll probably just string some wires through one end and call it happy. I feel like I almost need to sneeze. I'm not sure how much effort it actually took in order to get that far. I might have actually gotten it to a pretty close to finished state Tuesday last week or something like that. So, Strand Wanderer is nearly done. It'll be definitely done for next week. That's going to be the first thing that I end up entering for the Knit Girls Stash Dash competition. Thingamabob. It's like a personal competition. So, I will show you next. I've been bouncing back and forth between two projects. What is it? Sorry, I'm out of the frame. And I pulled out the sock blockers. Yes, I'm knitting socks. This is the Marit sock by Stephanie Vanderlinden. I'm knitting this for the Dear Sweet Lovable One, and it is turning out fan-freaking-tastic. I finished the heel flap, and then I started to do the short rows to get rid of all the heel flap stitches, and then I realized that you need to do even more short rows to get rid of the gusset stitches. So this was a very different construction. It was a little bit, at some point the short rows became very, very long. Oh well. And what I'm working on right now is on, let's rearrange that slightly, might be a bit of a pain, is what I'm working on right now is the lizard on the bottom of the foot. Let's see, can you guys actually see lizard on bottom of the foot? So it's sort of embedded in all this one by one color work stuff. It is quite cute. So there are like two secret lizards on the sock, one on the heel flap and one on the bottom of the foot. It definitely, now that I'm in this section of the sock, it takes a bit more thought in order to knit it. But it does have that addictive color work quality to it where you just like one more row, one more row, one more row. So I am getting pretty close to the end of the charted section. And I need to, for the Dear Sweet Lovable 1 socks, I measured his foot again. His foot is 1 inch longer than mine, and I knit him basically the same sort of sock that I knit myself. So it just needs to be an inch longer. And there are directions in the pattern for the 10-inch variety thing, so we'll see how we'll see how it goes. So you're supposed to do like a plain round, which I might end up doing in the red color to bring things back together again, or a couple plain rounds or something like that. And then you start in the 1 by 1 color work to the toe with the decreases, and it's a round toe. It's actually sort of surprising how long the toe is. The toe is actually called for 2 3/4 inches. So I'm going to verify that once I'm done with the chart, I'm in the ballpark of what Stephanie had called for, and then go from there. And the only thing that I'm worried about with this sock was that the dismount for the, what is it? Like getting off of the short rows ended up resulting in, you know how you get those little holes at the like intersection? Oh, I get my leg up high enough to show on the camera, not really. You know how you can get the like holes at the intersection, you know, when you start working in the round again after making a gusset. I got the same thing on this one, and they seem to me to be fairly sizable holes, so I don't know if I'm going to go back later and end up stitching them closed on the inside or something like that, because it just seems like a bad spot for wear. Everything else is really solid. It's just that one spot. It wasn't clear to me if I was finishing it correctly, but then I had the right number of stitches, so I assume I finished it correctly. I don't know. It's certainly the case where at some point I stopped really paying attention to the pattern and just sort of worked what I thought was right. So it's, Stephanie goes into explicit detail on all of the things, and there are charts for things you don't really need charts for, but may be handy for people who are less visually oriented than I am. So there we go. Maritz is coming along once again, and I realized that I was probably a little conservative when I was estimating how much yarn Maritz was going to use. So that will be a nice bump to the total, and that'll be something that's definitely going to be done. It's been quite a lot of fun to knit, but it isn't a carry-around project, so it's definitely a sit-at-home sort of project. So it definitely, what is it? The book is a pain to carry around. That's the short answer. And I made scans of the book to put on my tablet, and it's still, I didn't do a very good job of scanning it, so then I wasn't really able to even use the chart, so it was just a hot mess all around. The next thing I have to show you guys is my hand-spun socks. So, woohoo, 2 sock blockers, 2 socks. And these have been my carry-around project as of late. Here is how they are looking so far. I ended up doing a flap and gusset with a regular slip stitch heel, and I decided this time to try out the to try out the double gusset, which is the case where you end up putting the gusset on the bottom of the foot, I think the short answer is that I may have knit my heel flap a smidge too long. Like, it seems to fit okay, so it's not the end of the world. But, so it's the case where you end up decreasing all of the directly under heel stitches, and then you decrease away whatever is left over so that you have the right number again. So this is a 72 stitch sock using my Fat Cat Knits BFL hand spun. These are my first hand spun socks. And I am coming in at about 9 stitches per inch as far as my gauge is going. I'm using the Carbon's needles for the first time. Alright, I'm trying to figure out the best way to show this guy off. So I'm coming out with a nice tight gauge. I was hoping for 10 stitches per inch, but apparently that wasn't feasible with this yarn. There are definitely thick spots and thin spots, but you'd be hard-pressed to tell where they were on this sock. Maybe if you look on the inside, you can see places where I screwed up plying and stuff like that. And I suspect I'm going to have enough yarn for another pair of socks out of this. So, because I'm done with the gusset decreases. It's just straight on until the toe from here on out. So we'll see how it goes. And it's definitely been quite a bit of fun to work on. It's been really easy. So that is the story there. It is coming together nicely. And it does fit nicely, so I'm excited about that as well. And that, I think, is everything there. And that is the end of my knitting projects. So, what is it? So I have like 3 things on the needles right now. And very soon I'm going to be having 5. I ended up bringing down, what is it? Well, so the plan is to reknit the bodice of Elphaba and to reknit the toes on my Magic Mirror socks, which I talked about last week. And I figured it didn't really, what is it? I know that I definitely work much better when I don't have very many things, so I can just sit and drill down and finish something, which is why when I'm at home, I try to focus on the Marade socks. When I'm out, I'm focusing on my handspun socks, and there really isn't space at the moment for redoing the toes and redoing, what is it? And redoing the sweater. So it might turn out that I end up saving those until I finish the socks. And it may end up being kind of sort of complicated. For this sweater surgery so that it is better. I definitely like I don't really want to reknit the entire thing. So that is my great debate, is that I do not want to reknit the entire thing. So, but because it was a top-down sweater, that would require grafting the parts that I liked to the parts that I have reknit. So, we'll see how it goes. At the very least, I don't need to make any decisions until I finish the, what is it? I don't need to make any decisions until I finish the bodice. And, there probably isn't too much harm in, what is it? There probably isn't too much harm in then trying to save the sleeves and the body. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I'm drinking the Einstein Brothers Vanilla Hazelnut this week. So it is definitely one of my favorite ones. Okay, so on to the next thing. This took a ridiculous amount of my time last week. which is why it was slightly inconvenient to record outside, but it was just too gorgeous outside not to record. So, I have warped the loom, and I have reached entirely new heights in how not to warp a loom. Oh my gosh. So the next time I warp the loom, I'm going to have a warping board, and I'm going to have crosses and whatever in the world those things are that divide this, or divide your strands apart, and threading cross and the whole dealio. Because I spent at least 12 hours warping this stupid thing. At least. It was just gross. But I am weaving now, so I can't complain about that. I decided to go with a fairly simple pattern, so you can see that there are two darker stripes there. That is the weft yarn that I put in the warp. I was afraid that this yarn is basically a single wrapped with a acrylic thread, so I was afraid it wasn't going to be tough enough for the, for the warp. But I figured I could have some accent color in there and that it would really dress up the scarf nicely. And I'm just doing another simple tabby weave with this one. I sort of looked on the chart and then decided that, or whatever, I looked for, I think it's like handweaving.net or something like that, has tons and tons of drafts that you can choose, but I decided to just keep it really simple this time with how I thread my, so it is a 2-harness counterbalance loom. So it's coming along. It's just the case where sitting down and doing whatever a couple of inches and then going off and doing something else. And I ended up putting on, this will end up being about a 6-foot scarf when I'm done, I believe, and that I think will be a pretty good length. So, and I was surprised that it really is the Romney that ends up dominating the feel of this. Excuse me. So I'm not sure that if I wash it, if it'll floof quite a bit and we'll get the softness of the Regia hand dye effect. I'm not sure. But, what is it? So I ended up using about half of both. I ended up finding out how to calculate how much yardage we were using and all that other fun stuff. So I have 124 of the Romney and then 8 of the Regia hand dye effect, and then approximately 2/3 of the yardage ends up going into the warp. So you are able to really quantitatively figure out what's going on. So then this will be another thing that I would hope to get close to done for the end of Stash Apps, but it's something where, based on the investment of time that I needed in order to warp this stupid thing, but it's something where these scarves I really want to knock out quickly because I want to return the loom to my mother-in-law sometime soon. So, and it will be probably increasingly challenging to return the loom to my mother-in-law after mid-June. So, it's sort of the case where I think one of the projects for this week will be to figure out all of the things that I need in order to make my own warping board, and then I'll end up giving the warping board to my mother-in-law. And I'll have to make it so it's something where it's pretty easy to disassemble or something like that, just because it is, what is it? Because I thought I had warped it very inefficiently when I had made the Stella scarf, but I have reached entirely new heights of bad warping. So it's coming out pretty nice, and we'll see how it goes. My parents were actually visiting this weekend, and they were wondering if I was making washcloths. I'm like, no. I suppose that would be something really useful to make with a loom. So, but I don't actually have any cotton in my stash, and I don't really know how I feel about making that sort of thing. So, yeah, we'll see. But life continues on. Hopefully it's not too crazy. I don't think I'm at the point yet where I've woven enough to make up for how much time I wasted trying to get it started. But since Stash Dash hasn't, technically speaking, started, then I'm not too worried about how much yardage I ended up using, that sort of thing. And I suspect it will be tremendously easier to manage it once I get a real warping board and I have crosses and stuff like that to keep everything organized. Because pretty much it was just chaos. Like, I wrapped it around the dining room table, what is it? 132 times. And then I didn't really have a very organized way of getting it on either end of the loom, and I ended up having to cut everything and tie it on individually and tension it, which is not the way warping a loom is supposed to be. So, whatever. It is on its way now. And I think because of all of this loom craziness, I didn't get nearly as much spinning as usual done. I don't know if even I really have usual spinning. I did decide to, or what is it? I showed you guys this last week. I have done 2 more roll-logs since then. So this is the chocolate Shetland fleece that I am spinning as a part of my Spin the Bin and my Pound-a-thon challenge. And let's see. And then I was hoping that this is very likely also going to be my Tour de Fleece project as well. So this is what we're at right now. I still have quite a bit of roll-logs to go. Yeah, no, there are at least 10 more to go. So I'm not sure if this week I will feel more like spinning than I have in the past. I always get a little bit nervous when I end up finding whatever. So, like, this roll-log is incredibly dark colored, which means that it's probably going to be a real pain to spin because the shorter parts of the Shetland are darker than the longer parts of the Shetland. So this one has quite a bit lighter color to it. It has maybe a bit more white to it. And the white, the white fibers are definitely far, far longer, and so they end up making it a lot easier to spin and hold everything together. So it's just the case where, like, I know what I'm getting into as soon as I grab a roll-log and start spinning it. So we'll see what I end up doing and how I end up doing it. I could really fly my free flag high and bring the spinning along for the rock climbing trip, but I figure I'm probably just going to bring the bring the hand-spun socks or something like that. Maybe end up bringing the alfalfa sweater, because that's mostly just stockinette work back and forth, so that's not too bad. I probably have to find my alfalfa pattern and make sure it's printed out and the right directions are where I need it to be. So that is the story there. So we'll see if it gets any time. I was hoping that I was just going to be ready to ply this week, but I didn't end up spinning this batch of fleece nearly as fast. In terms of what's up next on my spindle, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Primavera from the Nest Fiber Club. There is a spin-along going on right now in the Nest group, and I've talked with a couple people, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it in half, thick-wise. So what would that be? We're doing hamburger style, not hot dog. And then I'm going to split half of that half into quarters or something like that. And so then I'll have a long color run, and then I'll have the shorter color runs, and I think that will maximize the craziness of whatever yarn I end up making with it. there have been some truly, truly gorgeous spins in the group, but I don't think I want to, at this point, do a thin single and not a hope fly. So unless I change my mind, what's probably going to end up happening is that if I do split it in half, hamburger style, I can change my mind about doing a thin single and just leave the decision for later on. But I don't really want to spend a ton of time spinning it unless it turns out it's an incredibly pleasurable spin. Well, what I really need is a palate cleanser, because sometimes spinning the chocolate Shetland fleece is sort of infuriating. But such is life. So, the last thing that I'd like to talk about today is stash musicians. I'm not a member of a ton of groups, so I don't know, I may be a member of like 24 groups, and it might not even be that much. And in those groups that I'm in, I tend to keep pretty close eye on the de-stash threads. And because Woolmice Lace is rather hard to get a hold of right now, it's currently not being manufactured by the mill, so then Claudia Woolmice cannot die. I ended up picking up 2 skeins in a de-stash. So the price was right. I don't like paying more than, what is it, $60 a skein shipped. And so then the pair of these was $120 for 2 miles of yarn. And I think the reason, like, what was it? Like, I think I was telling last week how I wasn't really planning on buying anything, and then sometimes a good de-stash comes by, and then you decide to get things. So I ended up getting 2 colorways. I got a Nobody's Perfect My Old Blue Jeans. So it is a semi-solid with a dusty gray blue and then maybe a lighter navy to it. It is quite gorgeous and quite lovely. The other one that I got was Blau Tint, and this is pretty solid, I would say. Let me open this bad boy up. And so I would say this is right on that intersection between blue and purple. So there are parts of it that look blue, there are parts of it that nearly look purple, and it's really a shapeshifter in terms of colors. And so there's some black to it. There are some sections that are more blue than others. But maybe when you hold it up to a true blue, you can maybe see that it is more purpley. I don't know, you can tell that. We've got diffuse cloudy light today, so it should make for good lighting, but I'm not sure. So, so now I don't need to worry about, so the thing that ended up bringing up was I was trying to figure out the color combinations for my walk on the Newcomb. And the color combinations that I picked were somewhat out of my comfort zone in terms of what I normally go for. Because what is it? Like a dark green, a purpley maroon, and then gray. What is it? So, and then I ended up quipping at some point. Like, I do have like a cobalt blue and then the gorgeous Stella Polaris, which both are actually rather new arrivals to my stash as well. But then I realized that I was going to open up, like if I ended up using those 2 colors of blue, I was going to have all of my skeins of lace open, and that I was going to have no fresh skeins, which... So, I don't know if it's depression mentality or what, but it was like, oh, I need more. So I think in the end this was a win. I'm just looking at this and realizing that the label says something different than what Ravelry normally says. It's saying that it's 1,717 yards per 300 grams. So, I don't know what's up with that. Maybe they're older, I'm not sure. It is a D-stash after all. So I got 2 miles of yarn. quite nearly a 5K. So much for destashing. I don't know. What would it be? I'm definitely not the sort to destash my own stuff. It's very seldom that I end up selling things. The closest I get to destashing would actually be swapping, which means there really isn't a decrease in the total amount of yarn that I have. But that, as far as I'm concerned, that this is fine. It's not like my stash is totally out of control. I am not a ridiculous collector of Lomisa, so I think it's probably a testament to my stash that the only untouched skeins are from the last 6 months. It's something that I end up using quite a bit. So, back into the bag. And pretty much 1 plastic bag is about as much as you, or is 2 skeins in 1 plastic bag is about as much as you can go when it comes to this stuff. So, this will be heading up into my stash, and I'm glad that it's already in a plastic bag, because I didn't really want to hunt for some more. Because it definitely is a pretty big increase to the amount of yarn I have. And I don't, at this point, really have any plans for them. I do have a lot of Renee Levington designs, and that they, for the most part, are of the magnitude of a skein of Lomisa, so we'll see. I suppose that I have been on a bit of a shawl kick lately, but I suspect I'm going to be running high on the socks for a pretty good time as well. Oh, there's no more coffee. So sad. Oh, this episode is actually pretty short at this point. So there's really only one more thing that I wanted to talk to you guys this week about. The Oldest Anything Cal, which is a joint knit-along with Emily of the What You Swatchin' podcast, ends May 31st. I don't even know what day of the week that is. I don't know. It's the end of May. I believe it's a Sunday, which means that it won't be too hard to log up the thread and all that other fun stuff. I'm really excited that so many of you guys are knitting along. And so what you need to do to enter for prizes in my group is, the last day of May is a Saturday. So in order to enter for prizes, you have a picture of your finished object, you have links to at least 2 posts that you've written in the chatter thread, and a justification for why this particular project is the oldest of something. And then, and don't forget also to post a picture of your FO in the chatter thread so we can all squee over it. Squee! And for those of you who are finishing up, Philippa, Allison, go, go, go! So guys, don't forget to cheer on the people who aren't done yet. We still have, we have 7 plus 5. So we have 12 more days of the Cal, and hopefully you guys can finish up. And I have the prize with me today. This is a skein of Everything Old Stratus lace in the Absinthe colorway. And I don't know if the colors, whatever. So this is a pretty gorgeous, very soft skein of merino lace, superwash merino. And so I will be very excited to send this off to the winner. I'm just going to do random number generator, probably on the podcast the first week of June. And the other thing, I guess, worth mentioning is that you're free to enter as long as the thread for the finished objects isn't locked. Another thing I'd like to encourage you guys to do is to pop over to Emily's group in the Watch Just Watchin' podcast and enter your FO over there as well. So do it. It'll be fun. What is it? So I'm definitely on track for finishing the Cal on time. And I will have 2 finished things. I'll have my oldest skein of wool mice lace turned into a strand wanderer, and then I have my oldest obligation project, which was spinning the fiber optic gradient for my mother-in-law. So, woo! What is it? There are probably actually quite a few more projects that I'm going to want to delve into in terms of making sure I get around to them, but we'll see how that goes. I think I finally had decided, what is it? So I think after I finish the 2 pairs of socks, I'm going to be delving into a pair of cranberry biscotti for my grandfather. And it is a slip stitch, very addictive pattern that's really good for using up scraps and stuff like that, so small amounts of yarn. So it will be, what is it? So I'm going to use Dora as the main color, and then I'm going to use Grafrots and Wazarots, which are the 2 colors that I used for his last pair of socks, and then whatever, make some pretty pair of very warm socks for him, because he deserves socks. So I think that's what's coming next. Which the skein of Dora is actually something that I had gotten in the Christmas swap. So yeah. Let's see, what else? I don't think that there is anything else. And good, I have my calendar up. So I will be recording again on the 27th of May, and so I'll have to be given my last rah 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 for the oldest and anything Cal and call it good. And I will hopefully have a ridiculous finished object parade. So we'll see how it goes. I'll have to figure out what the episode title is going to be. I don't really have much of a clue, unless it's just going to be nearly finished objects. I don't think I'm that close, though. So I hope you all have a lovely week, and I will be talking to you guys soon. So see you later, guys. Bye-bye.